Hello and welcome to the Wellness Wednesday webinar series brought to you by the Family and Community Health Sciences Department of Rutgers Cooperative Extension. Before we get started with the presentation on the 8 components of wellness, we'd like to ask you a few questions about your demographics. These questions are used to report to the USDA to ensure we are reaching a diverse population. Also, at the end of the presentation, you'll be asked a few questions about what you thought of the webinar. Please make sure to hit finish and exit when you are complete. Thank you so much for your participation.
Okay. So hello and welcome to the Wellness Wednesdays with FCHS, our webinar series brought to you by Family and Community Health Sciences, part of Rutgers Cooperative Extension. My name is Rachel Tansey and I am the Senior Extension Associate with FCHS working out of our Monmouth County office, and I will serve as your host today. I'm so excited to be hosting this presentation on the 8 components of wellness, certainly a topic we can all benefit from. By educating ourselves on this topic, we can hope to improve our health and balance of our overall mental health. So it gives me great pleasure today to introduce our presenter, Christine Zellers. Christine Zellers is a Family and Community Health Sciences County educator in Cape May County, where she educates the county on wellness, nutrition, and fitness. She has extensive experience collaborating with partners to create healthy food environments in areas of policy, systems, and environmental change. In addition to the community health policies, Chris works to educate residents on topics to improve their overall health and prevent chronic disease with a holistic approach to a well-lived quality lifestyle. That which would include physical activity, a nutrient-dense diet, and quality sleep. So without further ado, I'll hand things off to you, Chris.
Thanks, Rachel. I appreciate it. Good afternoon, everyone. It's nice to be with you virtually. Just want to not advancing as soon as I hit it. There we go. All right. So as Rachel mentioned, today's discussion is the 8 components of wellness. And in the discussion, there's 3 objectives that I have that I want to cover with you today. First, we're going to look at the definition of wellness, which I was saying to Rachel when we were getting ready for this. It's kind of one of those things that's used a lot, right? So we'll talk a little bit about that. And then we're going to talk about areas to create wellness in your life. And we're going to identify the 8 components of wellness. So before we get started in doing all this informational stuff, how about I'm going to pull the chat up here. How about if you guys put in the chat for me a word that you think describes wellness? Like, what is the one word you would use to define wellness if you were going to define it? Healthy, balance. There's words that are going to definitely come up today. Mindfulness, good. Energy, balance, self-care. You're all right. You're all doing good. Anybody else want to add? Healthy. Mental health, overall well-being, balance, mentally and physically healthy. Great, great. Yeah, and you know what? You guys are right on target. And as you'll see as we go through this, wellness means, I'll say it a couple times, but wellness means something different to everybody. And the way you achieve wellness is going to be up to you, because what makes me well and feeling good about my life might not be the same for you. So let's talk a little bit more about it and see, like, again, you guys, everybody was right. But let's talk a little bit more about wellness and the history of it, and maybe talk about those components so we can get that balance, like a lot of you said, in your lives and as part of your wellness. So wellness is a word, like I said, it's been used in various ways in the United States. Currently, wellness may sometimes describe physical health or mental health. I think a lot of times I saw people put in their mental health, and a lot of times we associate wellness with mental health now because of the way it's used mostly. But wellness is really a combination of balance. And I saw that, I'm glad to see that in the chat. I saw that. So it's really a combination of balance in a person's life that supports a healthy lifestyle and healthy habits in all areas of your life. So it's not just necessarily your mental health, but all the different areas of your life as well, even though mental health is truly very important. As early as 1947, the World Health Organization, the WHO, identified wellness as physical, mental, and social well-being, not merely the absence of disease. So, probably in that time frame in 1947, they were more worried about the absence of disease. But the WHO came ahead and said, no, it's wellness is really physical, mental, and social well-being. And they use that word well-being in there that is kind of interchanged sometimes with wellness. Today, there's many organizations, there's businesses and coaches that tout wellness, and there really is credibility to being in the business of wellness because it's the long sought over need to achieve a sense of personal satisfaction and balance. So that's why it's such a big area. And some people do choose to pay for that, and you can really achieve it on your own. So hopefully after you hear about the different components, the 8 components that I'm going to identify, you can try to find that balance on your own and do it for yourself. So to achieve this balance, a person must be aware that there are several components to wellness. It's not just doing yoga every day, but rather having an understanding of what brings you personal fulfillment and peace of mind. So wellness may look different for everyone watching the presentation today, as I said, and we're going to take a more in-depth look into what wellness is, and I'm going to talk about the various components as we move forward. So in 1961, H.L. Dunn, who is known for his research and development around wellness, established the proponents of wellness, which are here on the left. SAMHSA, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Service Association, expanded upon Dunn's ideas and adapted Starbrick's components of wellness to establish that wellness can be defined by not the lack of something, but the presence of some very positive things. So this is really focusing positiveness in your life rather than not having things. And looking at how those positive things can reinforce you being well and having wellness for yourself. Dunn first identifies, as you can see from the list on the left, in this definition of wellness as optimal physical and behavioral health. So he's showing that physical and mental health are considered equal, as they should be. I say it later in the presentation, I'll say it now. Mental health is health. Physical health is health. So they're both equally as important and should be treated as such. Often we place value on physical health and we neglect that good mental health that can contribute largely to good physical health and overall well-being. Next, Dunn identifies a purpose in life as a key component, as well as an active involvement in work and play. So he's saying we need to have some type of purpose. We need to feel like we're doing something that means something. And then we need to be actively involved in our profession or in what we do in extracurricular activities to help us feel fulfilled. Dunn also identifies a strong relationship and, as last but not least, happiness. So as you'll see, I'm going to pop up the SAMHSA definition of this with the 8 components, which is what we're going to be talking about today. But this was the basis, back in the 1960s. And it really looks into how overall wellness could be started and founded upon. So SAMHSA uses physical, emotional, professional, social, sorry, I went out of order there, social, professional, intellectual, spiritual, environmental, and financial as the keys to happiness. So they take those 8 components, like I said, they based it off of what Dunn started, and they're trying to help us to strive to balance and get that balance that we seek. And they really kind of pull this apart, which we're going to do a little bit today, and think about how they overlap and intertwine with one another, and how having one out of balance might cause another one to be out of balance, and that might cause us to not have a sense of wellness. However, remember, it's about having what positive things we have in our life. It's about having those things flow together. So looking at those positive things as we move through our day and our lives. And like I said, they're going to all flow together, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that as we move on. So let's break those different attributes, the 8 components of wellness down. To create physical wellness, you should realize the need for physical activity, quality sleep, and nutrition by eating nutritious foods. So they're an important part of your physical well-being or wellness. This should also include having a general practitioner you see regularly, or at least getting an annual checkup. Seeing your doctor is really critical for maintaining good physical health. And I know sometimes we don't go because we don't want to hear what they have to say, but it's important to at least have that general practitioner that you can check in with as part of your physical well-being and wellness. In early wellness studies, it was noted that nutrition and physical activity were overlooked for some of the other components in people that were surveyed. But now, wellness is often associated with only good physical activity and proper nutrition. So they had that association. I think now too, it's kind of tailing a little bit. I saw some people put in, mindfulness is another word that falls in there, and the balance. So people are starting to see that we need all of these things. But, as a point of reference, it did kind of start out as physical activity, physical well-being. As we move through these 8 components, I'm going to look at more areas besides physical and mental health. And we're going to talk about ways to achieve these different 8 components as we get towards the end of the discussion. So hold tight for that. The keys to maintaining emotional wellness depend on good relationships and supportive people in your life. So it's important to recognize that your strengths and then use them to your advantage, right? So knowing how, what things you do well, again, with that positive note, what positive things do you do well that you can use for your emotional well-being so that you feel like you have a good support in life. Having a support system to share your thoughts and feelings is really important to emotional wellness as well. Also, so you want to make sure that you have a good support system. Be aware of your feelings. That's one thing we're always taught, kind of smush them way down inside, right? But don't smush them way down inside. Be aware of what your feelings are. It's okay to have feelings. That's what your emotions are. Part of being well or having emotional wellness is being able to address your feelings and knowing they exist. And then find someone, if you are not emotionally well or you're not feeling well, find a doctor to help you with that. Because like I said before, emotional or mental health is just as critical as physical health. So you should have somebody, a doctor that you see, or somebody that you could work with on that if you need to. Also, having those people that around you personally that you trust or professionally that you trust could help with your emotional well-being. All right, so let's look at the social component. This one's been a little difficult over the last year and a half or so, right? Because of the pandemic and the shutdowns and not being around people. But it's really important to have a good support system. And I think that was even more evident over the last 18 so months. It's important to feel connected, and it's important to have a sense of belonging. So being a part of a social interaction will assist you in maintaining a healthy social attitude and to stay well overall. Keep in contact and socialize with supportive family and friends and coworkers. That might mean for you going out to, reaching out to them sometimes because you haven't heard from them and you need their support. But keeping those contacts is important. Try to make at least one connection a day, especially if you're not able to get out socially right now, still because of the pandemic. Call somebody, email somebody, or visit someone. Another way to be socially interactive is to join a social club or social groups. Volunteer so that you're connected to people or something that you enjoy so that you're interacting socially. The last few years, like I said, they really made the socializing difficult, but hopefully it's also showed us the importance of our social interactions on our well-being. It was very impactful on a lot of people, especially seniors, during the pandemic. And they were seeing a lot of folks that did have some mental health issues because they were not able to socialize and be around others and have that family and friend connection. So make sure to try to have them and make sure to continue them. And it's like a plant, you got to water them sometimes. Sometimes you might be the one reaching out, but they are important to have those social interactions. Next is professional. So when practicing wellness professionally, getting personal satisfaction and enrichment from work and hobbies will make you feel fulfilled. And this will give you a sense of professional wellness. While working, make sure to take breaks. This is really important. Take a meal break or even a walk break, and this will clear your head. And they've really starting to realize that taking those mental breaks or those movement breaks can really help you to be more successful in your work. And it's also going to be able to make you focus better on your work. I really have a hard time personally turning off, as I know others do. And I've had discussions with others in my department about this. You think that you can plug through, like, I want to get it done, I want to get it done. But really, if you take a minute and recharge, it'll make you much more efficient and productive than trying to push through. Make sure too that you're doing something you enjoy. If you don't find happiness in your work, then it might not make you happy. So realize that you might have to find something else to do. You might not be able to change your job, but maybe you could change what you do after work. If you have to stay in that job for whatever reason, try to find something that fulfills you afterwards, whether it's volunteering or being part of a club or organization, again, because that might help you to fill that gap professionally. Or maybe it's a craft or a trade that you know to do that you could do in the evenings or after work, around work, so that you feel professionally fulfilled, even if your regular employment is not creating that for you. Another important thing to realize professionally is that everyone makes mistakes. So try to take the mistakes and make them a learning experience. That'll help you to improve personally and professionally, and realize that, I learned something from this. What did I take away from it? And try not to do it again. But don't beat yourself up, because if you continually beat yourself up professionally, it's going to make for a difficult situation, and it's not going to give you that positive wellness attribute. And like I said, if you can't get it done professionally and you can't change jobs, try to find some other way to get that fulfillment for yourself. So intellectually, people generally know their intellectual abilities, but taking note of that and being able to expand upon it and learn new things is really important for feeling engaged and feeling fulfilled and whole and well. Let's face it, if you're never really too old or too young to learn anything, so you should always be trying to learn something new and expanding your horizons. When you find an interest in an area, try to learn more about those interests and expand upon that. Try to discover new ways to expand your mind. Reading is a great way to expand knowledge, so read for pleasure, but also try to read to expand your knowledge too. Look for new places to discover and expand your knowledge. For instance, maybe a county college class. They always have the evening classes or the classes that you can take here and there. Not always overly expensive, and sometimes they're even free. So, look at ways to expand your mind that way. And even being on our Wellness Wednesday webinars, I'll give you a shameless plug. You can expand your knowledge that way. It's free. You can do it at your leisure. If you can't be here at 2:00, you can watch a recording. So another way to expand your intellect. County colleges, like I said, they offer that free opportunity sometimes, or low cost, but think about how that can interact with your social engagement. So like I said in the beginning, these components overlap each other. So if you're looking to expand intellectually, how can you do that? Maybe go to the county college, you're going to meet people that obviously have like interests, and that'll expand your social component too. So kind of overlapping, intertwining, doing that circle that was there in the beginning. Make time for spiritual practices as well and connections. This doesn't necessarily mean spirituality as in a religion, but it can, if that's what you're comfortable with. Sometimes spirituality for people is nature. Some people it's meditation or practicing yoga. But it doesn't have to be a spiritual connection from a religion. So find that spiritual connection. As you determine your spiritual practices, think about making connections to the practice, for studying them, and think about creating relationships too, with people who practice those same methods. So maybe that's somebody at a yoga class or, a meditation group or something like that, but try to make those connections, because again, that goes along in those layers with the other components. Making these new connections and sharing time with those who have healthy, like-minded spiritual beliefs to support you and your spirituality can really create spiritual wellness for you. It'll make it feel as though you're doing something not just for yourself, but feeling fulfilled. Also, practice being kind to others, which will support your sense of spirituality. But remember to be kind to yourself as well. A lot of times we go out of our way to be kind to others, but we're not always kind to ourselves. So take care of yourself, make that part of your spirituality practice as well. Try, when you're thinking about beliefs, think about your spirituality as a belief system and what you believe in, and use that to practice your spirituality. Try to hold yourself to the beliefs and values you have determined that are important to you. And as you learn and grow for them, open yourself up to questions to how to stay true to those beliefs and what matters to you in those areas. There was one study done on yoga as a stress reduction in breast cancer patients. Kramer et al. Was the author, and they found that regular yoga practice didn't replace traditional medicine. However, it did find that yoga was more effective than no therapy in improving the quality of life and reducing fatigue and sleep disturbances. And this really demonstrates the power of the spiritual component in balancing stress and creating wellness. It shows that we can take this area of spirituality and kind of find something that brings us down a notch, levels us off, and helps us to cope with every day, helps us to get better sleep. So it is really one of the components that is important to look at. So environmental health is very much important, and that's not, it is your surroundings, but it's not. So a lot of times when people say environment, they think of, oh, I live in a city, or I live in the country, or that type of thing. So it is environment, but what you really want to focus on as a component of wellness is using the environment you are in to make sure that you're achieving your wellness. And this might require some changes in your life that take time, but creating a good environment in your life is really worth the effort. So try to make sure your surroundings are organized and they're clutter-free. If you take that time to get rid of things you don't need, you will likely feel lighter and enjoy your environment. Think about giving things you don't need to a friend or a charity so that it's recycled and it's not just thrown away. Take time to enjoy your outside surroundings too. Take time to enjoy maybe walking in the woods or going for a walk on the beach. And this can give an appreciation, again, that overlap with your spirituality if you take time to enjoy your environment and nature. And nature has been shown to have a very calming and restful effect on us. Using the environment to find your calmness will really help support your overall wellness. So, try to be organized, try to get rid of the clutter, get rid of things you don't need and try to give them away, like I said, and find your calm in your environment. And if you can't find that calm, so for instance, if your calm place is the beach and you can't be on the beach all the time, maybe when you go, take a picture and then keep the picture with you and look at it to calm yourself if that's what you need to have your environment as you would like it. Financial wellness means finding a sense of satisfaction from not only your current finances, but your future finances. So make sure to find ways to spend your money and budget your money that are creative. And sometimes it really takes a little bit of creativity. That may involve a spreadsheet for you of what you have spent or what you would like to spend, or talking with friends to see how they save or spend money. There are resources that you can use as a guide to meeting financial goals. There's apps out there and there's different, I know a lot of the extension services have free information about that across the country. And so they're great resources as well. But try to find a way to maintain good financial health. Sometimes it's hard to think about what our future might look like. We're so caught up in the moment and everything going on, but it's always good to try to plan that and to try to circle out that wellness balance with looking ahead for especially finances. Find a way, whether it's from putting a change in a jar maybe, or opening a savings account to save for the future. If you don't have a plan for saving, then you probably should talk to someone or research it and find out how you would like to do that and how you can do that for the future, because it's going to give you peace of mind now, and then it's going to help create wellness now and down the road for you. Okay, so I wanted to break these down, like I said. So those were the 8 components of wellness. And I want to take a minute and break down those 8 components of wellness and identify the areas maybe where, you could find ways to really implement these in your life. As you saw when we were discussing the 8 components and areas, I gave some pointers then, and I'm going to give you a little bit more now because I really want you to be able to achieve that balance. And that balance might be a constant work in progress, because I know for me it is. So I might be doing well in one area, and then the next thing you know, I'm not. But really think about when, these different 8 components. And as you're thinking about them, think about where maybe you're a little bit off in some areas. So for instance, I'll give you an example. I just was on vacation, which was wonderful. But prior to going on vacation, I was really stressed out. So I had a lot of emotional things going on. And what I found was I stopped really taking care of my physical health from that. So, I wasn't exercising as much, which impacted my sleep. So the emotional was kind of unbalancing the physical. So if you can keep all the positive things, like we said, of these 8 components flowing and going, that's going to help. But if something's not feeling quite right, look at what that is. Like, what can you do to maybe change that up a little bit and maybe improve on that? But it's going to be a constant cycle you're working on. Physical wellness, as I said, is more than just eating healthy. Your body really needs to move. So make sure to engage in regular movement. Movement that you enjoy is really important. You're not going to do something you don't want to do. So don't set out to do something that doesn't bring you enjoyment. Try changing what you do for physical activity up once in a while, and do a little between the different kinds, like cardiovascular exercise, stretching and weight bearing exercise, or stretching. So change it up so you don't get bored and you're not doing the same thing over and over again. When you're thinking about eating nutritious foods, you want to make sure that that's part of contributing to your physical component of wellness as well. You want to make sure that you eat a lean protein of some sort, whole grains, fruits and vegetables. You want to make sure that you're not eating a lot of sugar and fats that are not healthy for you. You want to eat the healthy fats. And you want to have a well-balanced diet and physical activity to support quality sleep. So eating better and exercising is going to help you sleep. Sleep is important not only for physical wellness, but many of the other components that we're talking about today. I mean, after all, if it's really hard to be successful professionally if you're not sleeping, right? It's hard to focus. It's hard to be clear-minded. So you really want to, again, keep that flow going. As I mentioned earlier, be sure to see a doctor regularly for checkups on your physical health. And to achieve good physical wellness, create a plan to break these areas apart. So, physical is such a big chunk in and of itself. You have sleep, you have exercise, eating healthy. Maybe start with moving a little bit more, and then add in a healthier diet after you've conquered being more physically active. Maybe, you don't have to do everything at once. Just try to do a little bit at a time and keep that flow going and keep it in check about where it might not be flowing well for you. For emotional wellness, make sure you know what you are good at doing and try to do that. And always find ways to improve yourself, and look at it again as that learning experience. Try to be aware of your feelings and find a trusted person to share those feelings with. If you're involved in an unhealthy relationship, seek one that is more beneficial for both you and the other person. Having a support system is really important. Make sure that you have people, either friends or another outside group, that you can lean on when needed. If your emotional well-being is not healthy, it's just as important to seek help from a mental health professional as it is if you would need a doctor for your physical health, like I said before. After all, mental health is still health. Don't neglect your emotional wellness, and try to evaluate where you might be emotionally strong or lacking, and find ways to build on your strength with good supportive relationships. If you are in a relationship that is emotionally unstable, seek professional help, especially if you are in danger. Social is the next component, and you can see these areas start to overlap, right? So for instance, again, to be social, you need to be in good physical health so you can get out and interact with others. Likewise, your emotional health requires good supportive relationships for social interactions. So this is true over and over again. So you want to make sure that you're letting these 8 components flow through. So for social, we mentioned earlier, you want to try to have relationships, join a club. Some people are even staying in contact via online now or by Zoom, just to have that ability to have contact or interaction with somebody. But it's important to keep those social interactions going. And like I said before, you might have to be the person that reaches out. It's always not the fun thing, not always the fun thing to do, to have to be the person that's always reaching out, but it might be worth the effort. And you know what? The person on the other end is probably really interested in hearing from you too. Professional wellness means finding satisfaction in what you're doing. If you're retired, then find ways to volunteer that may fulfill you or join a club. If you don't feel like you have professional wellness and can't change your job, like I said, try to find other ways to make that fulfilled, whether it's a hobby, a craft, or volunteering, so that you feel whole in this area and you're creating a sense of wellness for yourself. Try to pace yourself, even with professionalism. It's really easy. Like I said, you get going and you feel like you're trying to get more things done, but those vacation days are there for a reason. That lunchtime is there for a reason. Take the time and use them. It's important. Always use your vacation days. So it's important to get out there and take that time. Try to turn off from your professional time, because then it brings you back all the better. And it's also really important during the pandemic. A lot of us were able to work from home. Some people still are working from home, but what that gave us was the ability to continue working, even after dinner or, before bed. And that wasn't allowing us to shut off. So if you are still working from home, or you're doing what I'm doing and you're working from home, even though I'm working in the office, but I'm taking it home anyway, try to stop doing that. Try to take at least a couple days a week to have that time at home for your family and yourself, because that'll let you quiet down a little bit. So that, again, within and of itself, professionalism is one of those balances that you need to work on. So you want to find something that makes you happy, but you want to also not overdo it at the same time. Intellectual wellness is important, not just when we're young, but really at every age. When you're seeking intellectual expansion, consider learning something new that may take your interest, or even something that you weren't able to achieve in your career that could still serve to make you feel fulfilled and more intellectually well. Think about learning a new trade or craft. Read some, and again, goes back to professional, so the intellectual, see how it's looping. Read something new, or like I said before, seek out a county college course or do something of interest. Try to find folks to share time with that and have the same intellectual ideas, and that will challenge you a little bit too, because that'll help you to feel more intellectually well. Spirituality, we mentioned this before, it does not have to involve religion. It can be anything that you believe is one of your beliefs that you have, is something that you feel anchored with. Finding a way to connect with what you believe and ways to move away from our hectic lifestyles is really critical to achieving spiritual wellness. So that means taking time to compress or quiet yourself every day to contribute to your overall wellness. That might mean meditation. A lot of people do meditation, but it could be something else, besides meditation. It could be yoga, Tai Chi, attending a church service, something like that. So there's free places to learn how to meditate. I'm going to send you a list of those after the presentation as a follow-up, so that you can learn a little bit more about that if you're interested. And we also have some former Wellness Wednesday presentations that talk about mindfulness and meditation. So if you're interested in hearing more about them. Yoga, like I said before, can really help with the spiritual connection, and it could also overlap with some of the other components. And some people find spiritual wellness from just walking around in nature, being in nature, looking at that picture, finding some type of grounding that gives them that time down. Environment is not living in a beachside home necessarily. It could be, but not necessarily. It might be just the environment you exist in. So if that's living in a cluttered home and that's going to make you feel overwhelmed and unemotionally well, I'm one of those people, then try to clean up that space and make it something that will make you feel better and well. Maybe even that might even involve getting a little plant that you have somewhere that, makes you feel calmer and things like that. So it's all different for everybody, but what makes you feel comfortable in your environment and makes you feel like you are well in the environment. Finally, financial wellness is the final component. And again, just like with the other components, this one can overlap in so many areas. For instance, if your professional situation isn't good, it doesn't allow for financial wellness, then it might not help your emotional wellness. So you can see how they can get out of balance. But we want to try to focus on the positive and try to find a program that is free or low cost that you can achieve better financial wellness, or you can feel like, you're not spending as much, or you're sticking to the credit card, spending that you want, or whatever it is. So, kind of create goals for yourself and find that way to feel like that you've achieved that financial wellness with yourself. So going back to the first slide, this isn't the first slide, but as we indicated in the first slide and how we have shown here in the diagram, the cycle of wellness, the 8 areas are interrelated, and each aspect affects the next in some way or a different one in the cycle. Balancing them is really hard, but each is equally important for an overall sense of wellness. If you're lacking in one area, take time to focus on improving that area. For instance, if socially you feel isolated, then take some time to expand social relationships in your intellectual or social area, and then maybe that might create a balance that you're searching for. Try to be, the word mindful gets thrown around as much as wellness, but try to be aware of that, mindful of what might not be quite working. I usually know what's not working when I'm feeling, not myself. But it's hard, I know, to get back to that and be able to achieve it, but just maybe take that time to quiet down and try to find it so that you get there. Being physically active has been shown to improve mental health, and that can create a balance not only in the physical area, but also in the emotional area. If you feel financially secure, then socially you may be more stable. So again, trying to balance them all out. Keep these facets of wellness in mind. And if you feel unwell, examine areas that you might not be achieving your personal wellness needs and goals. No one can achieve personal wellness for you. So I can tell you all 8 components. I can describe them to you. I can give you ideas. I can give you techniques, but you have to do that for yourself. And you can do that for yourself. It's just, it takes a little bit of time, a little bit of effort, but it definitely can be done. So I would encourage everybody to take those few minutes every day, try to think about, what would make your wellness overall a little bit better. So